Ahmet Necip Fazıl Kısakürek was a Turkish poet, novelist, playwright, and Islamist ideologue. He is also known simply by his initials NFK. He was noticed by the French philosopher Henri Bergson, who later became his teacher. Biography. In his own words, he was born in a huge mansion in Sembilitas, on one of the streets descending towards Sultanahmet in 1904. His father was Abdülbaki Fazıl Bey, who held several posts including deputy judge in Bursa, public prosecutor in Gebze, and finally, judge in Kadıköy. His mother was an émigré from Crete. He was raised at the Sembilitas mansion of his paternal grandfather Kısakürek Zad Mehmet Hilmi Efendi of Mars. He was named after his great-grandfather Ahmet Necip, as well as his father, Fazıl. He studied in many schools during his primary education, including the French school in Gedikpaşa, Robert College of Istanbul, as well as the Naval School. He received religious courses from Ahmet Hamdi of Akseki and science courses from Yahya Kemal at the Naval School, but he was actually influenced by Ibrahim Aski, whom he defined to have penetrated into deep and private areas in many inner and outer sciences, from literature and philosophy to mathematics and physics. Ibrahim Aski provided his first contact with Sufism even at a plan of skin over skin. After completing candidate and combat classes of Naval School, Kısakürek entered the philosophy department of Darul Fünun and graduated from there. One of his closest friends in philosophy was Hasan Ali Yücel. He studied in Paris for 1 year with the scholarship provided by the Ministry of National Education, until the scholarship was cancelled. After returning home in 1926, he worked at Holland, Osmanli and his banks, and gave lectures at the Faculty of Linguistics and History and Geography and the State Conservatoire in Ankara and the Academy of Fine Arts in Istanbul. Having established a relation with the press in his youth, Kısakürek quit civil service to earn his living from writing and magazines. Necip Fazıl's life took a turn in 1934, when he met Abdülhakim Avazi, a sheikh of the Sufi Naqshbandi order. He became one of his most notable disciples, remaining a follower until the sheikh's death in 1943. Appropriating his anti-Semitic ideas from Europe, Kısakürek regarded Jews as the corrupting element within Western civilization, and described them as the originator of Marxism and capitalism. He held them responsible for the early conflicts between Muslims and the decline of the Ottoman Empire. Kısakürek's publications included the Turkish translation of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and praise for Henry Ford's The International Jew, as well as a political program in which he wrote, chief among these treacherous and insidious elements to be cleansed of the Donmis and the Jews. Necip Fazıl was awarded the first prize of CHP Play Contest in 1947 with his play Sabir Tazi. Kısakürek was awarded the titles of Great Cultural Gift by the Ministry of Culture and Greatest Living Poet of Turkish by the Foundation of Turkish Literature upon the 75th anniversary of his birth. Necip Fazıl Kısakürek died on the 25th of May 1983 in his house at Erenköy after an illness that lasted long but did not impair his intellectual activity and writing, and was buried in the graveyard at the Up Cemetery on the ridge of Up after an eventful funeral. Islamist nationalist ideology. Kısakürek sought to replace the Kemalist secular notion of nationalism by an Islamist one. Within Turkish Islamism, he represented the concept of Islamization from above, through the capture of government. Since the late 1970s, Kısakürek has been an icon for Turkish Islamists. Many cadres of the Justice and Development Party have been inspired by his rhetoric, including Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who met Kısakürek while still a student and attended his funeral at the start of his political career. literary career. In his own words, having learned to read and to write from his grandfather in very young ages, Kısakürek became crazy about limitless trivia reading until the age of 12, starting from groups of sentences belonging to lower-class writers of the French. He writes as follows: "My interest climbing up to the works such as claiming to be sensational and literary, eventually transformed into an illness and surrounded my nights and days as a net. Having been involved in literature with such a reading passion," Necip Fazıl states that his poetry started at the age of 12, and that his mother said, "How much I would like you to be a poet," by showing the poetry notebook of a girl with tuberculosis lying on the bed next to his mother's bed when he went to visit her staying at the hospital, and adds, "My mother's wish appeared to me as something that I fed inside but I was not aware of until 12. The motive of existence itself. I decided inside with my eyes on the snow hurling on the window of the hospital room and the wind howling, I will be a poet." And I became. The first published poem of Necip Fazıl is Kitab, a poem that was later included in his book novelist with the title Bermezatazi. It was also published in the Yeni Memoir dated 1 July, 1923. By 1939, his poems and articles were appearing in magazines such as Yeni Memoir, Milli Memoir, Anadolu, Hayat and Varlık, and Cumhuriyet newspaper. After returning home from Paris in 1925, Necip Fazıl stayed in Ankara intermittently. On his third visit he published a magazine called AGAC on 14 March 1936 by providing the support of some banks. AGAC, the writers of which included Ahmet Hamdi Tanpınar, Ahmet Kutsetege and Mustafa Sekip Tunç, decided to follow a spiritualist and idealist line on the contrary to the materialist and Marxian ideas supported by the writers such as Burhan, Belge, Vedat Nedum Tor, Savket Shuraya Idemir and Ismail Husrev. Token of closed Kadro magazine owned by Yakup Kadri and which influenced the intellectuals of the time greatly. Kısakürek later transferred to AGAC magazine published during 6 volumes in Ankara to Istanbul, however, unable to establish a viable reader base. The magazine was closed at the 17th volume. Necip Fazıl next began to publish the magazine called ideologue.He. Starting in 1943, the magazine was published intermittently as weekly, daily and monthly. In 1978, he was prosecuted because of his controversial articles and publications and the magazine was forced to close. Necip Fazıl also published a political humor magazine called Borazan, of which only 3 volumes were published. Bibliography. Poetry Aramçık Kaldırımlar, Ben ve Ötesi, Sonsuzluk Vani, Salih, Silerim, Esalim, Sil 2, Bu Yagma, Kanim Istanbul, Novels Aynadaki Yalin, Kafa Kagadi, Stories Berkak Hike Berkak Talil, Ruberkan Chilarind and Hike Isla, Hikalerim, Memoirs Kinat Mustatali, HAC, OVE Ben, Babiali, Plays Adam Yeratmak, Toim, Race Bay, Para, Sabir Tazi, Asap Konak, Kanli Sarak, Puf Noktazi, Ibrahim Edhem, Yunus Emre, Abdul Haman, Mukhad Zemanet, Sayapella and Li Adam, Parmuxis Sali.